Welcome back, caregivers. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Did you remember to de-stress during your caregiving responsibilities? If not, let's take a few moments to de-stress. Again, let's start with taking a deep breath in. Ready? Deep breath in and let it out. Another deep breath in and let it out. One more time, a deep breath in and let it out. Boy, that starts relaxing the moment we take those breaths. Okay? Let's do a little neck exercise. Let's lean our neck over to the right. That would be your left. And let's bring it up. Over to the left. Your right. And bring it up. Let's lean back a little bit and bring it back to the front. One more to the right side and up to the left side and up to the back and up. Let's get the shoulders involved today, okay? So let's lift those shoulders up and down. Roll them to the back. Roll them to the front. One more time. Let's lift the shoulders up. Roll them to the back. And roll them to the front. Wow, that was really great. And I want you to do one more thing for me today, okay? Take your right arm and reach over to your left. And take your left one and reach up to your right. And I want you to squeeze yourself. Yes, give yourself a big hug. And this is a hug from me to you. I know as a caregiver, lots of times we don't get those hugs of appreciation. But I want you to know that you are appreciated. You do a wonderful job. And I'm giving you a big hug today. All right. So now let's get into our session. Today, we're going to be talking about some tips to make your caregiving experience a success. This is going to be a two-parter. The first part is directed to those caregivers who go into people's homes to assist them with their caregiving responsibilities. The first thing is please arrive on time as scheduled. If you're to be there at 7 a.m., don't arrive at 7:30 or 8 o'clock. Arrive at 7 a.m. It's very important because that caregiver depends on you being there at the appointed time. That day is scheduled, and any deviation throws everything off. So please arrive on time as scheduled. If you need to be absent, please inform your agency and the family ahead of time if possible. Nothing can be as nerve-wracking as you calling a minute before you're scheduled to be there to say that you will not come or not show up. That caregiver has to make adjustments to their schedule so that they can do your responsibilities, because there's no way they can find someone on short notice. So please, if you need to be absent, do it ahead of time. And I know that emergencies do come up. We know that and we expect that sometimes. But please call and let them know. Just not show up and people just waiting and waiting and don't know what to happen. So please, if you need to be absent, let somebody know in advance. Get the phone number to that family caregiver. Nothing is as nerve wracking as nobody shows up and you don't have a way to reach them. So be sure you get the phone number of the family and or the person you're caring for. Next, familiarize yourself with the plan of care. The agency gives you a plan of care that outlines what you are expected to do for that person. So please review that plan of care so that you know what you're supposed to do. If you're supposed to bathe that person, if you're supposed to feed that person, prepare a meal, whatever, familiarize yourself with the plan of care. Next, ask questions about the care recipient's likes or dislikes. Sometimes you will come in and just assume that the way you do things for everybody else is the way that care recipient likes things to be done. 9 times out of 10, it is not that way. So be sure you ask, what does that person like? Or how do they like to have things done before you get started? And that way, you can avoid some of the frustrations from the care recipient because you are familiar with what their likes and their dislikes are. And especially when it comes to bathing and feeding. I know with my husband, he was able to do some of his personal care, especially washing his face. And that was something he always liked to do. And of course, he always wanted to pick out his washcloth. They could be the same type of washcloth, the same color, maybe a different size, but still he had to pick it out. And that's what he liked to do. He liked to pick out his own washcloth. And so you would just hand him 4 or 5. Might, like I said, look the same, but he would choose which one he wanted to use that particular day. And he could do his face. And he likes his water a certain temperature. It might have been hot for me, but for him it was just fine. And so those are little things, but you still need to know the person's likes or dislikes to avoid that frustration. Also, try not to fall asleep, if at all possible. And I know that maybe if you're working all day and maybe you have a client late in the afternoon or late in the evening, and if you have a few moments that you can sit down to rest, I know you're probably tempted to maybe fall asleep. But if you can, please don't. My experience was that there was one person that did it a couple of times. They came in at night and did, their task when they got there, and then there was a period of rest before getting my husband ready for bed. And she fell asleep, and she was a sound sleeper. So the problem with that was when it was time to get him ready for bed, and I was trying to awake her. Boy, you talking about taking a lot of time. I almost had to go over there and and so I had to yell. I know you get tired, But, if there's something else you can do to try, not to fall asleep, a quick closing of your eyes will be okay. But, that deep sleep is something else. Also, remember that, the family makes plans around when you're scheduled to come. I would make my doctor's appointments based on the schedule that was set up. So if you were scheduled to come, on a Monday at 7, and I know it was going to be 2 hours or so that you would be there, and I would allow for an extra 30 minutes, then I would probably make my doctor's appointment for about 11 o'clock. But of course, if you were late or if you didn't show up, that just threw things all out of whack. Because nowadays, if you miss a doctor's appointment and you don't give them 24-hour notice, they're going to charge you for that. So that's why it's important with those schedules, because the family makes plans around those schedules. And it's very difficult for them to break, what they have to do sometimes. Then you also need to let the family know if you need to leave early, for some reason. I know that some of you might have some children and at school, and maybe you might have to leave to take them to a doctor or somewhere. But at least let the family know in advance so that they can adapt their schedule, to meet your needs. We know that things happen that you need to take care of sometimes. And we're understanding of that, but we just really need to know. Supplies. Sometimes, family doesn't keep up with supplies because you're the one that are using, the supplies. And so if you notice that supplies are getting low, please let the family know, that if you, are running low on soap or running low on toothpaste, or if someone is using incontinence supplies, and you know that they're running low, let the family know, because sometimes it's hard to keep up with those things, and you don't want to be placed in a situation where you come and there are no supplies. And it's just that the family maybe gets busy sometimes and really doesn't go, through the supplies and kind of keep up with them. But since you're there and using them all the time, you can help the family in that way to let them know when supplies are getting low. And lastly, let the family know if you have observed any changes in the care recipient's behavior or their medical condition. When you're with someone, 24 hours a day, sometimes somebody coming from the outside in might notice a change that you weren't aware of. So if you notice that someone is not eating, like they used to, I know my husband was picky, really didn't eat a lot of the time. So those are things, I've considered normal. But sometimes those things could be an indication that there might be something that needs medical attention. So whether you think it's important or not, let the family know. And that way both of you can keep an eye on how that person is doing, so that if there's any care that needs to be done, it can happen. So when you're going into a caregiver's home in order to be successful, if you just remember, those tips. Oh, there's one I forgot. I know sometimes if you've been working with somebody a long time, you feel like family, but don't ask to borrow money. Um, we like you, and maybe we do consider you as part of the family. But, that should be a no-no, to ask for money. And, also to share too much of your personal problems. We have to deal with our own problems with our care recipient. And when someone tells us the problems that they're having that's kind of like an extra burden that we don't necessarily, need to have. Yes, we can empathize with you. We're concerned about you, and we're concerned about what happens, with you. But remember, the situation that we're in, that we're burdensome enough that we cannot take on somebody else's burden. So again, we love you and you do an excellent job. But these are just some tips that you can use in order to make your caregiving successful. And of course, I'd like to leave you with something inspirational to carry you. And this is a little prayer that I found in a book that's called Our Daily Bread. And this is a prayer that I pray for you and with you. It says, Father, help me to remember to call out to you when the waters of life are rising, and help me to offer hope to others. And of course, my book is still available, Hope in a Time of Despair, A Caregiver's Journey of Faith, on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and at other bookstores. So maybe get yourself a copy. Okay, so that's it for today. Okay, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. All right, see you next time. Caregivers, let's take a break. Bye-bye.